Major General Grizzle, Board of Regents, distinguished guests, I'm honored to present the combined graduating class of 2022. Colonel Orlando Griego, the Dean of Academics, and Colonel Jose Porras, the Vice Dean of Academics and High School Principal, will lead in the processional. Please note the first faculty member in the procession, it will be his last semester at NMMI. Lieutenant Colonel Randy Montoya has contributed significantly in many ways across the mission elements, serving as a coach and in an athletic and academic administration roles. Perhaps most importantly, he served as a mentor and role model for hundreds of cadet athletes over the years. Randy and his influence will be greatly missed at the old post. We wish him the best in his new endeavors. Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Randy Montoya. Major Bertha Gomez, Academic Counselor, please lead in our class of graduates.
Man, you know, as this is going down, congratulations, Damonie. I'm watching this ceremony, so it has the military honors and things of that nature. And, you know, with me retiring, I mean, of course, I have this tied to the ceremony and how, you know, in the military, ceremony means things as far as transition. And so in understanding that there's a difference between change and transition, you know, change being physical, more physical, and, you know, transition being more psychological. And, you know, it's easier to change than to transition. I think that's one of the biggest problems we have. And so that's why we actually have ceremony. We don't celebrate the little ceremonies that we need to. We have our birthdays and things of that nature. But we don't celebrate like, okay, I turned 40, I'm putting childish things away. I had a celebration to put childish things away of what I felt. All right. Let's get back to it.
Please render courtesy for our national anthem.
No disrespect to that. You know, I did my service, but I'll take this time to dialogue again. Very proud of my daughter. You know, it's really, you know, I'm making this video for her, but I'm going on record to say, like, you never know. You just pray that your kids just do as well as you hope, and go further than that. You know, the Bible says, you know, shoot a child in the way that they should go, like an arrow. That's all you can do. That's all you can do. But you have to put down those good foundations and roots. You have to be able to point out these things in life that are distractions.
Ladies and gentlemen, please bow your heads for the prayer. Gracious and caring God, our source of life, we ask for your almighty hand to be upon this NMMI graduates cadets. as we send them forward. With their classes and grading now complete, may they strive toward excellence in all they do. With the applause quieted, may they celebrate and lift up those around them. With the speeches concluded, may their voices rise up to pronounce peace and justice in the world. With the fanfare ceasing, may they find bliss in a future. With advanced degrees and credentials in hand, may their achievements grow and enrich their communities, and may they found great adventures. As NMMI cadets, may they discover holiness in the midst of life's blessings, as well life's challenges, to serve our neighbor and homeland. May they conduct their life's work with exceptional skill and integrity, inspired to go forward and set the word of fire from this day onward. Through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Father Yard. Please be seated. And now the Dean of Academics, Colonel Orlando Griego.
On behalf of the administration, faculty, and staff, welcome to NMMI. We are honored to have you attend this great celebration and day honoring our graduates. Let me first introduce the dignitaries on stage and in the audience. Joining me on stage, Major General Jerry Grizzle, Superintendent, President of NMMI, Mr. Brad Christmas, Board of Regents, President, Colonel Thomas Tate, Commandant of Cadets, Dean of Students, Colonel Jose Porras, Vice Dean of Academic High School Principal. Most importantly, we welcome the families who support our fine cadets and graduates. Congratulations on meeting the requirements and challenges of NMMI. And now, I have the honor and privilege to introduce the President and Superintendent of NMMI. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the podium Major General Jerry Grizzle.
Welcome, everyone. I was just thinking, I'm in my 14th year, if you count the fact we actually have 2 graduation ceremonies each year at midterm, and then in May, this is the 27th opportunity for me to address our graduates, and it gets no more enjoyable each time than the day that I get to do that, and I appreciate and applaud all of you for what you've accomplished here. I won't dwell on a lot of things. That's why we have a guest speaker. I'd just like to share one of my personal philosophies with you and challenge you to take this with you as you leave here. And that is something that I've always done myself, and that is to be prepared for the next opportunity in your life. You don't know what it'll be, but simply be prepared. When you get into your vocation, whatever you're going to pursue, know what it takes to advance in your career, and be prepared when an opportunity presents itself. When it does, you'll be ready. And when you get selected for that opportunity, there'll be people that'll sit back and say, oh, you were lucky. No, you were prepared. There's a mathematical formula I like to talk about that says luck is where preparation meets opportunity. That's what I'm asking you to do, is be prepared for when that opportunity presents itself. And then all that luck will come your way because you're prepared. We've got you on that first step of that journey. That's one of the things that we proudly say, that we are going to prepare you for the next step in your life. We don't know what that is, but we believe when you leave here, whether it's at the high school level or the junior college level, you'll be prepared for that next step in your life. And as you start down that path, look forward and know what is next and what will it take to keep you progressing forward in that path of endeavor. That's my challenge to you today. I hope you take that with you. As you look at your program, you'll see our guest speakers, not necessarily a full bio, but the remarks about him. He's asked me not to read that to you. We believe that this is an event of an educational institution, and we believe that everyone in this audience can read. So I'm not going to stand up here and read his information to you. But there still are a few things that I think are important for me to share with you about our guest speaker. Greg Neipert is our New Mexico House of Representatives representative. He represents New Mexico Military Institute in the House of Representatives. Prior to the recent redistricting, Honor Avenue, the road right out here, was the boundary line. The north part of the campus was in Greg's district, the south was in another district. Now the entire of NMMI is in Greg's district. Greg does a remarkable job of representing us in Santa Fe. He's extremely proactive with me and our staff, asking us continually, what do we need? What can he do to help us in the legislature to do the things we need for NMMI? It's great to have one that is someone really from Roswell who lives here, who is familiar with the Institute and stays in touch with us on the needs that we have. I certainly would be remiss if I was a guest speaker. I would want somebody to make note that I was a father and a husband, and Greg is both of those things. And I think you will enjoy his remarks today. It's a great honor to have Greg Neipert represent us in the legislature and be here today to speak with you. Greg?
It is indeed an honor to be here today to address the graduates of this class. And thank you, General, for that kind introduction. And thank you for your support over the years and all the things that you have done for our community. Your steady leadership has been welcomed in this community. And I think not only is it an advantage to the Institute, but it's also an advantage to Roswell, Chavez County, and frankly, the state of New Mexico. So thank you. Mr. Christmas, one of our regents. We also have the Lieutenant Governor, Morales, in the audience. And I might note that last time I attended the graduation, he was the speaker, and I was in the hot, blazing sun in Portales for the graduation ceremony.
Can you hear me?
I got you.
Hey man, appreciate you joining me on this, man. I wanted to hear what that general had to say, just for how we do with the military. But I wanted to hear the message because sometimes they actually have some decent things to say. And he said, look, there's nothing but when preparation meets opportunity. And I agree with that.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely agree with that, man. But no, thank you for joining me on this, man. I wanted to memorialize this for my daughter because, she's there. And I don't know if they're going to record this live stream. And, I don't know if she's want to hear what this guy has to say, but I'm just going to take the fatherly route and say, I think we can give her a little bit more at this particular time. Right.
Yeah.
And so as she comes to this particular mark, 20 years old, valedictorian, getting her associates in psychology, she already steps into this as a, she's already been an entrepreneur. She's already published author. The book right here, you know what I mean? Like, you see the book, right? By Damonie Johnson,
It's on Amazon?
World. What's that?
It's on Amazon?
You know what? It kind of fell off, but we might need to put that back out there because, she is a published author and stuff, right? And so, like, there's so many things, like, this girl was doing while she was out there, and I was just, man. And I stayed on her, and a lot of people give me shit for how, like, I grind my daughter and stuff. And I was like, hey, whatever. Hey, this is not for people to hear like I told you so, but it's a constant grind. To
Oh
get
yeah,
greatness, you gotta grind, right? It's
nonstop.
turn pain into product, man.
Yeah, man. And then
I don't know,
you
man.
gotta.
And with you being, at your doctorate, the PhD level, I think it's appropriate. I would love for you to speak on how you feel about this, man.
Oh man, you talked about it, man. It's once you embrace the process, I think that's what we don't really talk about. Is embracing the process. Actually, Admiral McRaven talked about the first thing you do in the morning to make up your bed, because the earlier you accomplish a task in the day, psychologically you're prepared for the next task.
They say that's your first win.
First thing, and so when it comes to success in academic success, I should say, because I think it's important to note that a lot of very smart people haven't been to school, but they got street smart or they got wisdom that the world has taught them. But when it comes to formal education, I think you have to have a passion for the process, and the process has to be what you picked, what you want to do. So, your dad, your mom can't make you passionate about the process. So your job is to facilitate or to foster what they already got. Because if you try to push the path on them, they're going to reject it. They're going to reject it. So when you find out, like my daughter likes music, so you know what? When it's time for music class, I got to get her in that piano lessons. I got to keep, she was listening to Mozart or whatever around the house, and I like, even though I'm like, hey, but we have to foster that kind of stuff. And I think that when you find something you're passionate about, sometimes we don't tell people what the requirements are at the upfront, because
go ahead.
People can get discouraged if you tell them, hey, if you want to be a doctor, medical doctor, you got to go to school for 8 years after, you got 4 years of this. So it's like, hey, I don't need to know all the steps. I just need to know the passion. And once you tell people that, then they will begin to investigate. And I think that's the key of education. It's to spark a light, not to keep it lit. Because only you can keep that light lit when it comes to learning. Because I can like a match. All I can do is give you a spark. But after that,
you all you need is the spark, man. But we'll say that's the fuse, right? Like the spark, there's a spark and there's a fuse, right?
Yep.
And so the fuse can lead to just whatever. They can lead to C4, dynamite. It can lead to whatever. Something's on the end of that, but it has to be lit. And so, but a lot of those flames get put out.
Ooh, talk about it.
A lot of those flames get put out, and and I see it because a lot of people live vicariously through their kids, and they live vicariously through their kids, but they bring in all their baggage and generational trauma. And then we also call it curses because we want to make it where we can't fix it so we can just complain about it.
Yeah.
And so let me tell you, and that's a speculation, but I see it a lot, right? And so the thing about putting out that flame is, you said it hit right on the head. When you force somebody to do something, they don't want to do it.
They don't.
Right? But when you force them to look at themselves and choose a path, that's different. Forcing your child to say, hey, I don't care what you do, you're going to do something. And your job is to be a good person, get education, get good grades, because that's what we have right now. And that's through education. And that's the sum of all experience, practical and academic.
Yeah.
But see, our lives, man, the Lord knows, God has put me in a position, because this is not a tout for me, but I'm trying to finish some stuff to finish my PhD application.
Yeah.
In psychology. Oops. What did she graduate this? She get an associate in psychology. I might get a PhD in it. Oops. I'll sit here waiting for her. You know what I mean? Like, and and it's just great that we can both do what we love together, because that is the true love of life, being able to do what you love with your loved ones.
And I would tell you, man, I think, see, we've been kind of conditioned, like, to think that a PhD is a terminal degree. See, I don't think that. See, because learning there is no terminal to learning. There is no terminal, and
No.
so when you start to get this idea that I'm going to be learning because it's what I desire, but then also what is the function of it? And see, I think for us, we see that there is a function to being knowledgeable in a specific field for a specific purpose. Because,
let me tell you something. Can I cut you off?
Oh, please.
Every single program that I've gotten into, I have used it to build or motivate something that I'm already doing.
Yeah. And so
I just use it to build and learn. And so when I'm talking about it, I'm like, oh no, it's this because of this, right? Because I'm going through a class to be able to substantiate my thought and what I'm actually doing. So it's not like I'm just learning it to learn it like, oh, what is this? It's like, how does it apply to what I'm doing? Oh, I use that for every single program. And so with this doctorate, I'm going to flip my leadership theory to get published.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens, right? Can you explain the process to us lay people about the PhD process?
Man, so the goal of research is to build on existing research. That's the goal. See, most people think that when you're doing research, you're getting validity by using what's already been tried, tested, and true. And until you know what's been tried, tested, and true, you can't add nothing to anything. Because it has to be, there's a process. And so when it comes to the research process, as far as the PhD, is you have to make a contribution to knowledge. I mean, you have to add something that we don't already know. And that can sound intimidating because we know a lot. We know a lot already.
But that's the purpose, though. I would say and agree with you. But the purpose is to dig in and figure out what was wrong, to either validate what's been said for today, or update it to what it is now. Because everything sometimes needs an update.
Oh yeah, and to be clear, I would say that you're adding a gap in the knowledge. So that would be the better terminology, is that there's a gap in our understanding of a phenomenon. So for example, when a Black person studies a topic, they have different eyes than a white person looking at that same topic. So
different consciousness.
So you're going to find that the Black person may phrase the question differently. So what have been the psychological effects of systemic racism on the Black mind in America? Now, I just made that off the top of my head, right? That was a question. What has been the psychological effects of racism?
What's the proper nomenclature? What's the proper nomenclature for what you just did? You called that a question. What's the proper nomenclature for that?
That's a research. This is a research statement. This is a research question. This is a research question, and it's designed to explain the phenomenon. So all research starts with a question. What don't we know? But we can only know what we don't know by researching what is in the literature. A lot of times what happens to Black people, there is no literature on it. Nobody ever wrote and studied how we live our lives. We know how we live our lives. We know what we go through. We know our struggles, but nobody wrote about it.
So can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because we're going to be all over the place because we ain't going to make this traditional. I don't even have sweet serenade and all that. So guess what? I get to combine a couple of different things because that's how God has given me my ability. So I get to talk, have a podcast with one of my favorite people to just dialogue with while my daughter's graduating. We can talk over this old grumpy white man because we have more important stuff to talk about. It's beautiful, right? But let me ask you this. Having gone through the PhD process and achieved this very high level of accolades in this world of academia, would you say that people who go through practical experience still get education enough to have honorary PhDs?
Yeah, and so one of the things that I find out is that so a title is nothing without the weight of the phenomenon. So for example, let's use Bill Cosby for a good example, right? When you start to look at he's got a lot of PhDs. They were honorary, right? But what happened?
Did they take them back?
Huh?
Did they take them back?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so when it's honorary, they can take it from you.
Right.
I don't want anything from somebody that can be taken from me.
Right.
But I will tell you this. I say that when it comes to the process, the biggest frustration that I experienced in the entire process was I kept bumping my head against the procedure.
Okay.
Because the procedure is not designed to be easy for you to do if you're trying to research a subject that can be very controversial.
Okay.
Because there are safeguards in place to make sure that you're not being biased. So you have a committee member, you have a chair, and you have a vice chair. The chair of your committee is the one that's making sure you are following the protocols. And then your vice member is making sure that you are using the methodology correctly. So if I'm using quantitative,
okay, so let's pause. So pause there. Let's pause there because that's a lot, right? And this guy's wrapping up. Let's pause there in that process. I want to kind of keep up because if there's something relevant, I would like to be able to spit off a conversation on that.
Oh, they give him his tokens.
Hey, participation. You know what I mean? Yeah. Hey, thanks for showing. We get it. We've been there. We know what that is. Thanks for coming. Thanks for speaking. Take, shake, salute. But so with all that, all those different procedural things in place, isn't that like life though? So when I say that, right, let me ask you this. I just want to ask you this. As a person who was put in a position to have to raise a child and to get to this point of a graduation and having them graduate and be like, I did it. Could a person get an honorary degree in like parenting or some shit, like PhD in parenting or some shit?
Oh yeah, but this is the rise
graduation ceremony. Now,
the importance of the child.
Go ahead, finish your statement.
But at the turn of the 19th century, the 20th century, the importance of the child and child rearing is what initially allowed women to enter into the labor field, because the teaching professions were designed for the woman. And as the child became more important, the teacher of the child got more importance and more prominence. And so that was the window that opened up a lot of opportunities to the woman, not just being the homemaker, but now being the mind maker. So her credentials came from the fact that the child's rearing was her responsibility. And at a time when infant mortality rate was so low that most people didn't name their children until they were 2 years old.
Oh, I remember that. All right, Doc, let's pause. Let me see what they're talking about. And so we can talk off some of this. Let's pause for a second. Let's quick mute.
To graduate with honors, a cadet must graduate with at least a 3.25 GPA. Will the graduates with honors please rise and be recognized? It is now my honor to certify the candidates. Will all the high school and junior college candidates please rise and remain standing? As the Chief Academic Officer and Dean of Academics of New Mexico Military Institute, I confirm to the President and members of the Board of Regents and the President and Superintendent of NMMI that each of these young men and women successfully completed a rigorous and challenging course of studies designed to prepare them mentally, physically, and morally to become leaders of character and advance to the next level of their education. To each of you, and in the name of your esteemed faculty, I offer our sincere congratulations. We could not be more proud of what you have accomplished. It is now time to award the diplomas. Graduates, please be seated. At this time, I would like to introduce Colonel Jose Porras, Vice Dean of Academics, High School Principal, who will give a few words.
Good morning. Bienvenidos a todos. First and foremost, I would ask that the staff and faculty please rise and be recognized. And I thank you very much for what you have done to prepare these young individuals, this graduating class of 2022. So please, faculty and staff, would you please rise?
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to share a bit of insight with you cadets, you graduating today. When I left this campus 25 years ago, May 11th, 1997, I knew one thing. As the general mentioned, preparation. Preparation is key. And preparation is what this institution did for me. A young individual from a small rural town here in New Mexico with a population of 225. Yes, Lake Arthur, New Mexico, a hometown that I hold dear. So I thank this institution for what it did for me. It prepared me for the future. So the past 23 years in education, I have been able to prepare, inspire other graduates, now cadets in the past 3 years, for a life that holds many opportunities, that holds many choices, that you will encounter many challenges, but leaving this institution, you will be prepared for all of that and then some. Moving on. Graduation brings to mind a great quote that my predecessor always quoted. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. In fact, a cord of 3 strands has almost mystical power because it's much stronger than the sum of the 3 separate parts. I believe NMI has captured this mystical truth in our delivery of education. At NMI, that cord of 3 strands is reflected in academic excellence, uncompromising character, and personal physical strength. Indeed, a cord of 3 strands that will serve you well as you continue your education. In all, I commend and thank you for what you have achieved throughout your time here at NMI, whether it was high school or whether it was at the junior college level. No other graduates will be able to say they completed their journey with the challenges that you have faced. Core challenges, academic challenges, athletic challenges, and life challenges. For sure, this is only a stepping stone, and you are to be applauded. In conclusion, this graduation is a bit more special, especially when a young man from my little hometown of Lake Arthur, New Mexico will be joining me on stage. So once again, congratulations to all of you graduates, cadets, and congratulations to you, Mr. Alejandro Jose Rubio. It is our pleasure now to present the NMI diplomas to the high school graduates. Major Jasmine Small Armstrong will read the names of our graduates. Representative Nybert will present the diplomas. Joining him on stage will be Major General Grizzle, President and Superintendent, Mr. Brad Christmas, Board of Regents President, Colonel Griego, Dean of Academics and Chief Academic Officer, myself, Colonel Porras, Vice Dean and High School Principal, and Colonel Tate, Commandant of Cadets and Dean of Students. The Directors of Alumni Relations, the International Department, are presenting their coins to eligible graduates as they exit the stage. Major Bertha Gomez, please bring forward the high school graduates.
All right, I think they're doing the high school graduates right now, so I'm gonna try to keep my eye up. And if there's an eye in the sky somewhere, somebody help me out. But whatever, I'll keep my eye up. You still there? Can you read me?
Yep, I got you.
So I think we left off. Hell, I can't remember, but there's a lot of different things. The woman being the nurturer of the children in the
yeah. And so your point is that when you talk about education is only as valuable as what it produces for our future. And as the woman became the sole provider for the child, there was an emphasis on that child being educated. And so it was natural. That's why most women are teachers. It was natural because the teacher being the mother at first. So essentially, these were the people who pioneered education or early education. And so a lot of them didn't get degrees or titles, but the work that they did, we see it today. I think that's where, when it comes to, they say, it's amazing what you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit for it.
Oh, good Lord. Oh my God. Hey, do me a favor. Say that again.
I said, it's amazing what you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit for it.
Oh man, you said a thing right there. Let me tell you something. You talked about, you don't see the name of the architect on the building.
Don't see it.
Hey, so, and it's crazy that you say that. Hold on one second. Let me make sure, because they got a small class.
The junior college graduates.
Oh, junior college. Here we go.
It's good.
My bad.
Graduating with highest honors, Damonie Unique Denise Johnson, Columbia, South Carolina. Alina Anastasia Liania, Killeen, Texas.
I was muted. I'm going to bring it back. Yeah, you said something there about not being worried about the credit. Nobody's there yelling for Damonie, right there. Because, it's all in the BFE. But I sent Damonie there strategically.
Yeah.
To BFE to say, you need to be able to go nowhere and build a name for yourself. So that means you can go anywhere and triple your wealth. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, and so this is the process. And you trust the process. This girl is going to be a freaking assassin. And I'm going to sit back laughing because I'm training her and I'm telling her, hey, you go out there and you kill their asses. You can try to come in here and kill me, but I'm gonna be ready for you every single time. And it's not about the literal about killing, but it's about the mindset,
Oh man, you know, I will tell you, man, when it comes to the greatest weapon of warfare is the mind. The greatest weapon. This is Sun Tzu. You know, he who, you know, there are fights that research will win for you before you even begin the debate. You know, there are issues that have already been addressed and readdressed, and the literature not only supports it and validates it, we can show it empirically. So it's like once you know how to use and maneuver in the literature, you know, you'll find that a lot of times, you know, I'll talk to people, right? And they'll say something to me like, well, we got to get back. Let me research that and I'll get back with you. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you can research it, but this is what I do. Like this is what I do. Like I've done this research. This is what I continue to research. So go do your research, and then yeah, you can come back. But this is what I do, and I think that that's where, when it comes to information and education, a lot of times we're trying to alleviate the need to recreate processes that have already been established, and that becomes a challenge to interact with people sometimes, because it's like this has already been done, you know, and so that's why I think when it comes to, yeah, and that eliminates a lot of frustration and debating, because I'm not going to debate with anybody that I spent 5-10 years of research on, and you haven't spent 5 minutes on it.
Have you heard these jokes where people are like, I'm not, my boy even made one. He's like, I'm not about to sit up here and argue with no woman who got more body hair than me. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, bruh, you look like you micro, like, electrolysis, you know, all your hair. So it was a funny joke because there's literally nobody on the planet with less body hair. So it was appropriate. But the funny thing is, it was about justifying the credibility of speaking to somebody, right?
Yeah.
And so when you say those things, like, people challenge your years and life's work in one statement, like, oh yeah, whatever. And it's like, you have to have the mental fortitude to not even care.
Oh yeah, but so I think of it, it's not, let's say, about caring. I think the question then becomes is that some people enjoy the darkness of their own ignorance.
Ooh.
They enjoy it because in there they can reign supreme.
Right.
And I think that when you have an idea and you bring it, you know, when you're talking about, like, psychology is a very interesting field. Because anytime you start to talk about the mind and how it works and operates and what are the impulses and the chemicals and all those things that go into the mind development, you know, what I've seen happening is that, you know, when you talk about ego says, if I know the most, I will speak the least. If I know the most, I will speak the least. And I'm going to speak the least because the fool is in a hurry to share all the things of their heart. And so when it comes to this idea is that once you've made your argument, if you know the most, then you can tailor your response based on the level that you're interacting at. And I think therein is a challenge. That it's never perfect because you're dealing with so many people on so many different levels. Like, I could be talking to a room with a 4-year-old all the way up to a doctor at a Ivy University, and can I make a message that they both can understand?
All right, pause. That's a beautiful thing that you said right there, right? Great segue to the moral conscience, right? The moral conscience of the stage of development, right? So you said 4-year-old, right?
Yeah.
So what motivates a 4-year-old? Not getting in trouble, getting a cookie, right? Going to play, right? The higher level of consciousness is capped at a 4-year-old level, but you still need to be able to speak to that 4-year-old.
Gotcha.
And that 40-year-old at the same time, if you're trying to get them to understand the same message, right? So if there's a fire in the building, you know, all you have to say is a certain thing to motivate them, because both are motivated by the fear of death. Take that call. Let's see what it says.
I'd like to thank the Institute staff who planned and executed the commencement ceremonies today. Let's please give them a hand. And express my appreciation, my sincere appreciation to faculty, administrators, and alumni who gave their time today to participate and to serve. Let's please give them a hand. And to all of you, your presence means a great deal to our graduates. Thank you very, very much. Now, graduates, it's time to turn your class ring around to signify your graduation. If you forget which goes where, remember that you wear the ring with the class year to the outside so that you can see the letters NMMI facing you, reminding you of your alma mater. And now, I would ask everyone to please stand as I invite our music director, Major Matthew Brady, to lead us in singing of our alma mater, the Old Post.
Had to back out of that one, boy. I thought we was gonna get a show.
Hey, bro. Hey, you know how many times I did the Air Force song, and I'm just like, off we go.
Hey, man. You know what though? As a military training leader, as an instructor, as a person who facilitated a million graduations and all this stuff, man, I had to be the hype man sometime. Not as
Bruh.
like the top boy, but like as one. It just got to the point where I know I played the company man because of the position, right? But it was about understanding why the indoctrination was important, right? Because it's you know what I mean?
Hey,
right?
they, I don't know if they're ready for that conversation.
Yo,
because
bro,
this
listen.
is the theta. This is called the theta state of the mind. This is why children are so susceptible to anything you tell them.
Mhm.
A child will believe that a man on Christmas Eve flies around in the sleigh and delivers presents to all the world down their chimney. You know?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Kids are, they're susceptible, man. And that's why, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, even anywhere you go, what are they doing right now? Is it over? Let me see something. If it's over,
I think the song is over.
I'm on it. Is the graduation over? They threw it up. Yeah, they chopping it up. Hey, Damonie, as it wraps up, I'm gonna say a couple of words to her real quick. You know, Damonie, like, you the shit, right? Like, that's it. Like, what else is to be said? Listen, we as parents try to set, just like the Lighthouse series, we try to set guides and warnings for your kids.
Yeah.
Right. And you set these markers because your parents will always be that marker of, I always gotta at least do better than my parents.
Oh.
Right.
Oh,
like, you don't have to do that, but it's psychologically there because your parents want you to be better than them.
Yeah.
You know, and so I have my own ambitions, and I know that I'm setting the bar really, really, really high for Damonie, and she does not have to do what I do.
Yeah.
But should she want to, she knows she stands on the shoulder of giants.
Hey, all day. But no, congratulations, Damonie. You know, I tell people a lot of times when they, you know, that stepping stones are so important because, you know, there's nothing that gives more confidence than accomplishments.
Correct.
Accomplishments give confidence. And I think that when you You know, you don't look at a journey and say, look at how high this mountain is. You say, look at that cliff over there. If I can just get to that cliff over there, I don't worry about the top. I want to get to that cliff. And I think that, you know, one of the things that we do so often is we see the entire mountain and we can get overwhelmed. Like you can look at the, like, I don't lie, that when I first applied for a PhD, my first thought was, what the hell? You know, like it was literally, it was like a mountain. And I'm like the kid who spent most of his education in special ed, who only went to college because they was trying to get EPR bullet. You know, I was that kid. You know what I'm saying? You know, and so to be at a level where you were like, over time, you say to yourself, like, you know, I can do, like after that bachelor's degree, it's like, you know, I can do this. You know, I'm a bachelor, you know, and after that master's, like, I could do this. I have a master's degree. And then you're like, well, wait a minute. If I got this and I got that, well, why can't I go get that too? You know, and then why can't I do it?
Momentum.
Yeah. And I will say this, man. And I will say this, man. You know, there isn't any people in my family that have a PhD. And I don't think of it as like, I didn't think of it. I wasn't doing my research because I wanted to be the first in my family to do something.
Right.
See, to me, your motivations have to be personal.
Right.
It has to be personal because other people's desires will not push you to get to where you want to be.
Correct.
Other people's, you know, so your focus has to be singular, but the goal has to be plural. Because there are cascading effects to things that you are doing that you don't even see it at the time. Like I don't see, like, if my daughter is 9 years old, and you know, I'm a big English person, so I make sure that, you know, her English is always good.
Right.
You know, and I'm not like an English person, but I'm like, if she says something, I will correct her and give her the right thing to say. And it's not because I'm trying to be hard on her. I'm saying because it's, if you understand this language that you have to operate in, you will be more successful in this world you have to operate in. And if I can connect you to being more successful by communication, then you will be able to have more tools available to you. And it starts with communication. And I think that's where, when it comes to, as a parent, you know, I look at it as I don't want my child to follow my footsteps. But I want them to understand that there are no footsteps that you can't travel in. You know.
Absolutely, and that's what it's
world
about.
Is yours.
And so, you know, you think about when what you put in your kids, what you impart in your kids, right? And so I think about who I am now, and I didn't have a son, I had a daughter, right? Yeah. So I couldn't like go put this in her hand. I could have, but what was that going to do for her, right?
Yeah.
But I remember my dad putting it in my hand.
Yeah.
And my uncles and stuff being coaches, right? And I was, you know, I started off my first year as a tight end. But after that, I became a quarterback, right? Yeah. And so to be a quarterback is to be the leader of a team, a leader of men, right? And to have a father who was in my life teaching me how to be a quarterback and teaching me how to be a leader of men. It's like, you have to go out there and control them.
Yeah.
You have to motivate them. You have to lead them. You give the ball to them. You throw the ball to them, right? Yeah. And like, that's a lot of ownership that a child has to take on.
Yeah.
And then if you take on the consciousness of being an older sibling, right? Yeah. But your parents have to be deliberate, because education is not just the academics.
No.
It's everything, right? And so when you take the time to be deliberate in every single one of these areas, this is what it takes to be a parent. It can't be half-assed. It can't be done by no damn phone. And it's a constant struggle. And even if you try to do it right, it still can go wrong. I'm blessed. I'm lucky, because it could have turned wrong. And you know what? It comes down to crucial decision making. And you want to know what? Amazon here, baby. You know what it is. Hey, Baxter. That might be the time to us to close it, but the deliberateness. Baxter,
Yeah.
come here. Come here. Baxter. Anyway, we're gonna close it because it was just for the money. But
Oh yeah,
I'll
man.
say this: the deliberateness. See, the problem with a dog sometimes is when you train him to do something really well.
Oh
Like
yeah,
he's supposed to be like that until the person leaves. Okay, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
I'd rather let him do that. You know.
Hey, no, I hear
So
you, man. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. But with that being said, the deliberateness in a child has to be taken seriously, and you still have to have beliefs, actions, and goals all about my bag. Beliefs, actions, and goals. That's the bag.
Belief, actions, and goals.
Beliefs, actions, and goals. They're on the back here. It says you gotta go to the website oaByKJ.com. Speaking of which, I've been meaning to give a little shout out to you, but I'm glad I'm here to give it here. I saw you cop some of that, Adarare gear.
Yeah, man. I'm a firm believer, man, that they don't pay me no money to wear Nike. we gotta when it comes to a lot of this stuff, when it comes to marketing and we gotta support, because I think that so often we look at support and we'll say we'll support people we don't know, and you're like, I don't even know them.
I appreciate it, man.
We gotta support,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting my gear up, man. Because like I said, I think that we get to a point now where you can sit back, and I think this is the they call it the calm before the storm. When you can sit back and your daughter has just graduated valedictorian, she's just got all those accolades, and now you can bask in your fatherly. You can say, I think that when it comes to the harvest, because planting the seed can be challenging, but the harvest is the most opportune time because it just prepares for the next harvest.
Correct.
So you spend the time collecting and gathering all of the accolades, and hey, you know what? My daughter, my daughter out here doing big things, and now it's like, okay, now it's time to prepare the new
Back
field.
In the lab, baby.
Back in the lab. Back in the lab, new seed.
Hey. Yep. Oh my God. And let me tell you why it's so beautiful, right? She's coming back here to be with daddy.
Yeah. Hey, he's OJT.
Oh OJT. My God. The OJT that's gonna go on with this girl when she gets back to daddy. Because daddy don't have to go to work like that. So if daddy's focused on his true work, because we miss a lot of time with our kids in that damn military shit, man.
Yeah, man. Oh, who you telling, bro? Hey.
And that's why you gotta have good, like you said, partners, like we say, wives, and I said partners for whoever you have to help facilitate in the growth of children, because it takes a village, man. Grandma, mama, daddy, sister, brother, auntie, neighbor, random person of same consciousness. Let's go. Bro, I promise you, I was at a pool one time, hanging out, getting my Calvin on, chilling, right? There's a little kid in that stroller yelling, and I'm chilling, I got my music playing. I'm like, man, what? It's a black lady and the kid, you know how that feeling is. I'm like, hey, now, you doing all that crying, whoa? All that, how that black conscience, it's just what it was is with a kid, with a baby, you got to grab their attention because everything shocks them new, right? Like, right? And then it was helping the lady because she trying to get the baby to stop. And it's like, and you know what they do? He's like, see, your crying got all that. Da, 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 da. It's like, yeah, everything will be all right. And it's just this energy that everybody's looking out for everybody.
Yeah.
And the baby calms down and she's talking about, you see, da, 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 da. And then they come back around and maybe and that's what life's about, giving the energy of caring. As we wrap this up, man, there was something I thought about, and I don't know if we talked about this before, but there's a species of orangutan, or it might even be of people, that they have community sex, and all the kids are everybody's kids. They don't question any kid. They don't question the paternity of any kid from any woman, because everybody is just giving it to everybody. So when they see a kid and they like, your mama, your daddy's like, come here, like it's your kid.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh yeah. I mean, the paternalism.
Makes sense,
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I think that there is definitely something to be said about genetics in children when it comes to building, I would say, not just a diversity of idea, but defects as well. You know, like when it comes to, like, you look at Europe, and a lot of those families were inbred families.
Oof.
And then we seen what happened to those families that were inbred families, because they thought they were.
Why were they inbred, Doc? Why were they inbred?
Because they wanted to protect their bloodline. They thought that if they were mixed with other people, they would be diminishing themselves, not realizing that they were actually hurting themselves.
Correct.
By having blood
who did
issues.
that more often than not? Who did that more often than not? Who were doing the inbreeding?
The people from the Caucasus. Well, I mean, England was doing it, Spanish was doing it.
No,
Yeah.
Caucasus was good. No.
Yeah, but a lot of the
walk away.
kingdoms, like the Habsburgs, a lot of their children were deformed. They were a lot of their children were deformed, and a lot of their children had maladies, you know, cleft foot, cleft palates, blood issues, hemophilia. They had a lot of issues. And that's part of the reason, though. So, and that's why, you know, when I was, you know, to get on this idea of how to build a nation.
I'm listening.
That's
is good.
But that's what I think about when it comes to, like, when you read the Bible. You know, the Bible is instructions to how to build a nation. You know, it's how to build a nation.
Hey, who did you work for?
You know, but it goes to this idea that the concepts were, hey, don't have sex with anybody that's a close family relative. Leviticus 18, right? Because you will now, they probably did not understand the science 3,000 years ago why that was important.
Listen. Even if they did, this is where me and you, this is where we make our money. Even if they did, the fear of being wiped out overcame that, and they thought it was going to be a strength, and it ended up being a weakness at the same time. An inferiority complex, this is Calvin speculated, an inferiority complex is already there, and you're already weakening your bloodline, and the other people aren't doing it, the other people who don't look like you, and they're getting bigger, better, and stronger, and they come from a place of original creation. Well, don't get me started.
Well, no,
there's a whole thing that's fucking up.
But this is what we learn from the animal kingdom. Whenever you breed two animals together that were not designed to be breed together, they cannot procreate. A donkey cannot create another donkey. Donkeys are infertile. I can take a lion and a tiger, make a liger, but that lion and tiger cannot produce after itself. So the idea is, can you produce after yourself for your lineage? Now, if you can't produce after yourself, you will become extinct. If you cannot produce your progeny, you will become extinct. And so the idea of eugenics was, we have to allow the non-desirable people not to procreate, because they're going to make non-desirable people. Now, this whole science is flawed because it's built in racism. because the eugenic science of racism teaches that there is a superior race, there's an inferior race.
Yeah.
However, the people who said this had a fear that we never had. And I think therein lies the biggest struggle, is that during slavery, and it all goes back to there for some reason, that they had breeding farms and sons were getting their mothers pregnant and their sisters pregnant because they didn't care. They didn't understand. They just saw them as capital. They didn't understand the maladies that they were going to create, the illnesses
Correct.
that they were going to create by
Right.
doing this.
They were pretty
And
much
so when
creating, just like they were creating not mutants, but almost like they were mutations.
Yeah. And so when you start to look at, you cannot create a nation this way. You can't create a nation this way. And I think that when you start to look at, I don't talk about like the idea of dominant and recessive genes are separate from the idea of cultural norms. And I think that one of the things that made us susceptible to a lot of the issues is that our culture invited the stranger. So when the person that we didn't know came into our community, we gave them dinner. We said we treated them like a neighbor. That was the Afrocentric view. But the Eurocentric view is they see the stranger as a threat.
Yeah.
They want to get the military out. They're like, kill the people who don't look like us, because culturally in Europe, that's what was happening. People were just killing each other. It was happening. And so when you start to look at my clan, got bigger, because if I couldn't kill you or subjugate you, then the idea was that I would form alliances with people who shared my interest and values, and then we just make bigger providences. But I think that it goes back to this idea that we sometimes don't understand the rationale. Like, there are things you will tell your kid that they won't get into the grown-ups. And it's not because they can't get it, it's just they don't understand that you're trying to tell them, because I've seen this.
Okay. So this comes back to consciousness.
Yep.
Right? So to hear my father's words 20 years ago is to be a father now and say those same words.
Yeah. If they were valid.
Well, valid or not, because you can learn from a bad example.
Oh no, I think a lot of times that
hear me out, right? Yeah. So I had to be a father to understand my father.
Yeah.
Consciousness of father.
Yeah.
We can never speak to a woman about the pain of labor, because we would never be able to have a child. So we can never speak to the total existence of woman consciousness, right? And so consciousness is important, because that's where the moral consciousness comes in, and understanding where your location is. You know what I mean? Like, we were talking about location earlier, but knowing where you are to know where you're going, knowing where people are morally to be able to touch them. So when you have these messages that your kid doesn't get till they're older, well, was the message for them then? Or was the message for them older? Or was it a principle that is applied and needs to gradually evolve? And that's normally what it is, but it has to, the message has to meet the moral consciousness of the individual at every stage of development.
Oh yeah. And the synchronicity, the synergy. You want the symbiotic relationship to be connected. But see, and this is why I find that people who don't have the connection can be easily swayed left or right. They're like a flag in the wind.
But that's what consistency is for. That's why we have consistency.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm done off you.
But I talk to my brothers, man, and I find that that it's easier to build off of a model than to create your own. And why would I have to create my own model if I see a model that already works? Like, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel because I know the wheel works.
I mean, I
And
submit
so,
to you.
yeah,
I want to submit something to you in that statement, right? Because I want, as we talk about these big ideas, Doc, we'll do it. I always want to make this stuff relevant for what we're talking about, and I always
yeah,
want you to let me know if I'm off putting. Exactly what you just said. I have learned to do that, like work smarter, not harder. So there are
yeah,
these ideas that you can champion and make better, right?
yeah,
And so that's what SALT is about. My first level of SALT is just a graduate level of reframing organizations. The
yeah,
second level is messaging through the rhetorical triangle. The third level is emotional decision making through system 1 and system 2, fast and slow thinking. The total consciousness of moral deals with the stages of development and moral foundations. Those are all separate graduate level ideas that I just combined to make my shit about vision, voice, and decision making.
oh yeah, and I think that's, but the idea becomes the model. You ask yourself a question and you say, I start off with the question. I say, what will happen to me once I learn this information? Like, as a result of getting this data, is what can it or will it produce in me once I know it? And I think a part of knowledge is to say that if I needed this information, if this information was missing from me, the addition to it will enhance me in a way that I am now in a deficient state. Like, I'm deficient when I don't know something that will be, essentially critical to me, to my success or survival. And so when it
It's
comes
like eating.
yeah,
It's like eating, like you need nourishment. You continuously need nourishment. Even if I ate last night, I still need nourishment today. And that's the same thing with education.
yeah, but
I'm sorry.
I think that you have to be very mindful that when you are talking about structures that are created to build off of frameworks or lenses to look at the world through, it's important that your lens be consistent so that if you have to switch lenses, see what I see happening a lot of time is this. I see people being able to switch lenses, but not being able to take it to its logical conclusion in the switching process. So I'm going to view the world through my critical race lens, right?
Oh yeah.
And so if I put those lenses off, then I can't use certain arguments from that lens and then jump into another lens because it won't be consistent.
Bro, but that's what people do though, Doc.
Yeah,
People misconstrue consciousness and the principles of said consciousness and try to apply those principles in the other consciousness, and
they
they're
don't apply.
conflating issues. They're conflating.
Exactly.
They're mutually exclusive.
Yeah. And so, so that's why I take this idea that you as an individual can be successful on your merits if you put the time, the energy, the work in. And I think what has happened a lot of times is that we sometimes, what they call it, they want the reward without the work. Want the reward without the work.
That's
And
what
see,
everybody.
but I'm thinking to myself, like, you won't value the reward if you didn't put in the work.
But that's what fast money, that's the difference between fast money and money that you work for. Any money that you stolen or that was given to you or given to you in a way that you did not have to work for, you will not appreciate that money and it will leave just as fast as you got it. But that's why people who mostly hit the lottery don't keep that money.
Yeah. And so for us, man, I think it's hard. And this is where I see myself. I see myself as challenging frameworks that no longer have the utility as it's currently constructed. But you
could have used a better word for that, right?
What?
It's called relevant.
well,
relevant to the frame of mind to which you live, and you live juxtaposition to that framework. It is not relevant to you anymore.
Yeah, but I mean relevance in this idea. Like, okay, for example, let's say that I have the market cornered on a certain thing, right? Like I have the market cornered on a certain idea or a philosophy or whatever.
Okay.
And so I have an incentive or an interest to protect it because in order to avoid competition from entering into that market, I have an interest to protect my intellectual property or whatever. And what I find out happening is that that's not how knowledge works.
No.
You don't protect knowledge.
You share
it. If you have to protect it, it ain't good.
Mm-mm.
If I can't go into the middle of the street and yell my ideas out, they ain't good ideas.
Right. But the ideas are to be sold and not to be told.
Oh, valid. But I will tell you this. This is where the idea of manipulation comes in. This is where the idea of deception comes in. It's because it's like I don't start off with the premise that I know more than you, and so therefore I have to get you to think how I think. I start off with the premise that we both don't know anything, and if we can come to agreement, then we can learn together. That's my premise. My premise is that if what I'm saying isn't making sense, then I need to reframe the argument, or I need to be able to make sure that I can understand what you're saying.
So I have another word for you. Congruent.
Yeah, if possible.
You know what I mean? That's the goal. The goal is to be congruent. In the statement of understanding what congruent is to be in agreement.
Yeah. I mean, actually, if possible, like for example, if you want to murder me, I can't be in agreement with you.
No, correct.
Can't be in agreement because
but at some point in time, you can understand that I want to murder you.
Yeah.
You get this understanding, and you live in a world that if you see me, you might try to murder me before I murder you, but you know there's an understanding of kill on sight.
But see, I would say,
agree or disagree. Agree or disagree.
Yeah, but we've been disarmed.
Walk with me, Doc. Walk with me. No, you're not gonna walk with me on this real quick, right? Yeah. So if two people agree to be enemies, Geneva Convention, if two organizations agree to be enemies, there's a congruency in thought that we are enemies, but there is a level of ethics and law that's laid down within the thought of adversary. If we are going to fight, here are the rules. So there is still a moral ground to adversary. And some people don't even have the honor to even be moral as an adversary.
Yeah, I think that I think that when it's time to fight, we got to resort to law of jungle. We have to resort to animalistic behavior because fighting does not construct. Logical people don't fight. There is no need for logical people to fight. So if I'm going to fight, then I'm going to become animalistic. And if I become animalistic, then logic and reason are out the window. Now I have to resort to my baser state of mind. Because intellectual people can fight with their minds. Exactly. We can fight with our thoughts. So in order to get people to fight, I think you have to get to an animal part of the nature that looks at self-preservation. Because I like this: if my thoughts are not valid, they need to die. If my information that I'm sharing is not effective, then it needs to be reformatted. Because what I see happening is that people would rather kill you than challenge their own beliefs.
Exactly.
Because if you dead, I ain't got to worry about it. But now
I ain't got to worry. Even if you thought about it, even if it plagued you for a week, after a week, it'd be gone because that person's dead.
The person's dead. And what they learned though is we can burn the witch at the stake, but we can't burn the desire for knowledge.
Oh,
we can't burn the we can't burn the desire to know.
Hey, that's it. We're at a minute. We're at an hour and 20.
Hey, get him.
You mic drop. Last thing you said. What did you say? You can burn the witch, but you can't burn the knowledge.
You can't burn the knowledge.
Leave it there, man. Listen, me and you gonna catch up.
Yes,
I actually plan on taking a 2-week hiatus to build
Yeah.
up some momentum to come back high. But guess what? This is what it's about, baby. We popped in. I appreciate you.
Yep.
You came in and hey, just like that. This is for my baby though, to put down some roots and some stuff that she can always go back and see. You know what I mean? From her daddy, and a very, very, very smart man who cares about her, and she don't even know.
All day.
Conscious,
All right, bro.
man.
Hey, have a good Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and all the viewers. Hey, man, all about my bag, beliefs, action, and goals, oaByKJ.com. Show your reverence. Be about it.
Get him. All right, bro.
Stay on real quick. Huh?
All right.